Hello and welcome. You are now looking at the inside of a WordPress installation. And WordPress is a website builder that operates on the basis of posts, pages for more permanent content, and then widgets for static content. To create content, a user would typically use either pages or posts to add that content, and typically that content would be added using the process currently on your screen, where you'd write in a title, you'd write in content, and then you manipulate that content using the various buttons that WordPress gives you. However, WordPress has now created a new editor to create and manipulate content. They've given that editor a different look with different features and an entirely different interface. That interface is called the Gutenberg Editor. And in this course, we will explore this editor and how you can use it in order to create content on your WordPress website. We'll visit how you can use all of the major content containers called blocks and how you can manipulate them on your page. We'll also take a look at how that content impacts what the viewer will see when they come to your website. So in the next two videos, we'll go over the basics of installing your WordPress website and then the elements of using WordPress, most of which it's likely that you may already know. We'll focus the bulk of the course on how you can use the Gutenberg Editor to manipulate content that you may want to place on your website. Okay, so with that, thanks, and I'll see you in the first video. Welcome back. Now in this video, we'll talk briefly about installing WordPress to your domain. And typically, when you've set up your domain and hosting, you will have a control panel. And you're looking at the traditional version of the control panel, or cPanel for short. In some cases, your control panel may have an application like Fantastico. In other cases, there may be a specific WordPress manager or WordPress application. Regardless, you're going to go inside of that application in your control panel. And in this case, we're going to build a new site by going to this button that says New Site. Now, when you use the application in your control panel, the idea is for you to click one button and for you to be able to have the site installed automatically. And that's what we're going to do. Now, in this case, we're going to click this Advanced Configuration so that we can install WordPress inside of a subdirectory. When you're installing WordPress, you'll be asked to create an admin user, and this is what you're going to be using in order to log in to your WordPress installation as an admin. Then you'll need to create an admin password. You're also going to need to have an email address that WordPress is going to forward all important notifications about your WordPress installation. Now, optionally, you can go ahead and give your blog a title. Now, you will be able to go back and change it later. You can give your blog a description that will actually appear inside of your WordPress website when you create it. Alternately, you can leave both of these blank in order to get started. So what we're going to do now is we're then going to click the Install button. Once you've done that, you'll be able to come to your site. You'll be able to come to this login link. You'll then be able to put in your login and password. You'll then be inside of your WordPress website for the first time. Okay, so with that, thanks, and I will see you in another video. Welcome back. Now, before we get into using the editor, you want to know about some basics in creating content using WordPress. Now, for continual news and updates, you're more likely to use the post interface. If you want to upload multimedia, including images, audio, and video, you'll use the media library. In order to create more permanent content, you're likely to use the pages interface. Now, the pages interface is very similar to the post interface. In order to add content to either posts or pages, you can use widgets, and those widgets will be on all of your pages site-wide. And in order to control the look of your website, you'll use the theme interface. In order to control the functionality, you'll use the plugins interface. You can install various third-party customizations that will change the way you can use your site. To control your settings site-wide, you'll use the settings area. For example, if we go into the general settings, you'll see that we have a blank site title where we can change the title and we can change our tagline. And for example, if we were to then save this information and then we were to visit our site, we'll see our site title and tagline in the header area. As stated, we're going to focus on content creation, and we're going to focus on using the Post and Pages interface in order to work with Gutenberg. Now, if you're already a WordPress user, you may want to upgrade to WordPress 5.0 or above so that you can use Gutenberg. However, before you do that, you need to back up your WordPress installation, and that is what we will do in the next video. Okay, so with that, thanks, and I will see you in the next video. Welcome back. Now, before you upgrade your website to the new WordPress 5.0, you are going to want to back up everything that's on your current website. And one of the ways that you can do that, if you don't have a plugin or some kind of service to do that, is to install a plugin that WordPress that's made available to you through the WordPress menu. So what we're going to do is we're going to click Add New. We're then going to write in Manage WP. You'll typically see one that has lots of installations as well as good reviews. You can then click Install Now. Once you do that, you can then click the Activate button. You're then going to add your website to your Manage WP account. Now, if you're using Manage WP for the first time, you probably don't have an account. You can click this button to open one. We're going to agree. Then we're going to click Sign Up. You'll then be asked to connect your website. Then you'll click Add Website. You'll then be asked for your username and password. Once you've done that, you'll then be able to go to your dashboard. Now, with the Manage WP account, you can back up one website without having to pay. So in this case, we're going to go ahead and back up our website. So we're going to come into the Backups menu. We're then going to click Activate Backups. We're going to click the Free Backup, and then we're going to activate. When you start for the first time, Manage WP is going to take some time to assemble the information on its site, and then it will then start creating a snapshot so that you will be able to back up. And you'll then have a backup system for your website inside of Manage WP. And in order to access the backup process, again, all you'll need to do, we're going to log out of this website. And we're going to take note of the web address. And in order to log into that web address again, in order to initiate a backup, all you need to do is to put in your email and your password. And if you need to initiate a restore process from a backup, you'll be able to do it from inside of Manage WP. Okay, so with that, thanks, and I will see you in another video. Hello and welcome. If you come inside of your WordPress installation and you look to your pages or your posts and you have an interface with the old style editor, if you want to work with Gutenberg, you're going to need to update. Typically, you're going to see the interface to update at the very top of all of your screens in WordPress, and all you'll need to do is to click this link that says please update now. You want to make sure that you have backed up your site so that in case anything happens, you'll be able to restore your data from one location. So what we'll do now is we'll click this Update Now link. Then you'll be brought to this screen. You're going to be given the choice again to Update Now, and then you'll want to click this button. WordPress will then go through a series of functions, and then you'll see that your site will then be updated to WordPress 5.02. You'll then see this interface. You can then go to your pages or your posts, go to Add New. You look at the interface, you're then going to see the Gutenberg Editor. Okay, so with that, thanks, and I will see you in another video. Welcome back. Now, as stated in an earlier video, if you want to change the appearance in your videos, you're going to use the themes. So for example, if we go into the themes area, you're going to see that you have 3 different themes or appearances for your WordPress website. And all of these themes have a name. Now, you can find other themes by going to the Add New button. And then you can find themes that are going to be compatible with the Gutenberg Editor. And you can use the search features in order to find one that has the features that you want. To do that, you'll go to this gear. That's going to open up into several different filters. And you can choose the kind of filter that you'd like to use. And then you can choose the features as well as the kind of layout that you'd like to use. Once you have the filters you want, you can then click Apply Filters. You can then choose from the available themes, and all you'll need to do is you'll need to then check the one that you want to install. You can preview that theme by clicking the Preview button. This will show you how the theme is actually going to look. Once you do that, you can then click the Install button. Once you do that, you can then click Activate. That theme then will be on your actual site. And so that you'll be able to see what the site will look like, you can then click Visit Site. And this will show you what your site looks like unedited. Now, although a theme may be compatible, not every theme is going to help you to take advantage of the features of Gutenberg. What you can do is you can go to this Latest tab. That'll show you some of the latest themes that have been made available to the WordPress community. You can then also try and test these themes by previewing them. And again, the same process takes place. If you like the theme, you'll just click the Install button. The theme will then be installed. You'll then want to activate, and then this will then be your active theme. All you'll need to do is to visit the site, so you'll be able to see how your site is going to look. Okay, so with that, thanks, and I will see you in another video. Welcome back. And when you initially install WordPress, you're going to find that there is at least one default theme that you can use with the web builder. Now, as of the recording of this video, you're going to notice that there is a theme called 2019. You're also going to see that there is a theme called 2017 and a theme called 2016. Typically, those themes are going to be compatible with the most recent version of WordPress. So if you don't want to look for additional themes, you can typically use the most recent version of default themes and activate it for your WordPress installation. Now, when you are upgrading WordPress to the new version, in this particular case, if we upgrade our WordPress to the Gutenberg Editor version, you'll find that there are going to be default themes that are older. And as the recording of this video, some of these older themes that you're seeing on your screen, 2015, 2017, 2016, are all available in older versions. And if you update those versions, they'll then be compatible with the new editor. So in this case, what we'll do is we'll just click Update Now in each case. This will update the theme so that you can exploit some of the advantages of the Gutenberg Editor if you choose not to update your theme. And now each of these themes are going to be compatible with the Gutenberg Editor. But even still, in most cases, it's going to be the easiest if you were to use the default theme that is most recent to the change. In this particular case, the one we're looking at is 2019, by activating it and then using it for your website or blogging purposes. And in this course, we will continue to work with the 2019 theme to explain the editor. Okay, so with that, thanks, and I'll see you in another video. Welcome back. Now, in order to start creating content, you're either going to choose to use a post page Welcome back. Now in order to create content on your WordPress site, you're either going to start by using Welcome back. Now in order to start creating content, you're going to start either using the post or the page. In this case, we're going to look at what you'll need to do for In this case, we're going to get familiar with the editor by looking at a post. In this case, we're going to get familiar with the editor by looking at the post interface. So to do that, we're going to go to the post area and then we're going to click Add New. And that's going to bring you to the post interface. Now you'll note that the post interface is going to look very similar to the pages interface. So if I go to the pages area and we click Add New, what you're going to notice is that the pages menu looks pretty much the same You're going to notice that the pages interface looks very much the same as the post interface. So we're going to go back to the post interface and click Add New. That's going to bring us back to this layout. Now if you're already familiar with WordPress, you're going to notice the right-hand side panel is very familiar to those activities that you used to be engaged in. Creating categories, creating tags, having a featured image, having control over discussion, as well as being able to create an excerpt. Now what's new to the interface is going to be the elements of a particular block. So for example, you'll notice that if we click inside of this first block, what you'll see is that this block element, this area will then allow you to customize this block or area for content creation. And so every block as well as every kind of block is going to have its own set of elements. You'll see that this one we can change the color settings, and we can also add in additional coding. Also in this layout, you're going to notice a gear at the top, and we can click the settings button. And the settings button allows you to control whether or not you're going to see this panel where you have these document elements as well as block elements. You'll also see on the right side that there are more tools and options, and you'll see that with these three buttons. If you click those three buttons, you're going to have even more control over the view. For example, we can enable the top toolbar. We can also enable what's called spotlight mode, where we only see what we're working on. And then we can enable full screen mode, where we rid ourselves of some of the elements and only focus on, again, the page that we're working on. We can disable all of those modes. What you'll also see is that we have what's called the visual editor as well as the code editor. So for example, if we were to write in some text here, you'll notice that we're looking at this text in what's called the visual or WYSIWYG editor, which stands for what you see is what you get. We can also look at this same text as it'll appear on our site with the code editor. This will allow us to see the actual HTML behind what we've written into our block. We can decide then to toggle back to the visual editor and then again use the what you see is what you get interface. We also have tools that are based on how we use the blocks. So for example, we can do what's called manage all reusable blocks. We can use certain keyboard shortcuts. In this case, if we were to open up those keyboard shortcuts, we can then use them as we work through our editor. And this is something that you may want to keep as a reference on another page. We can also make a copy of all of our content so that we can paste it. So now that I've clicked the paste button, so now that I've clicked the copy button, if I were to go to a notepad file, all I would need to do then is go to that notepad file and then paste the content that I just posted. And you'll see it there in HTML code. And we have more control over how our interface looks. For example, if you find that you don't need to have all of these areas available to you when you're writing, what you can do is you can go into this options area and you can make sure that you're only going to have those elements that you're going to use on your document panel. You can also have it so that WordPress does give you pre-published checks or helps you to figure out what may be wrong with your document. And you can enable tips to be shown to you as to how to use the new WordPress editor. Now, part of the flexibility that the Gutenberg editor gives you is the ability to create blocks. In the older interface, if you wanted to have text, you had to create everything inside of one area. With the new Gutenberg editor, what you can do is you can create blocks. So for example, let's say that we wanted to create the same text, but we wanted to create it within a specific block. And instead of creating all of the text in one block, we can create that text in a different block. And as you'll see, we'll be able to manipulate these blocks to, as you'll see in a later video, we have the ability to manipulate these blocks. Now you'll see here at the top, what we can do is we can control our block navigation. You can see we can then highlight the block that we want to work with through this navigation. Another feature you'll notice is at the top we can click content structure, and this will give us some helpful information as to how we are progressing through our content. Perhaps you're trying to create a document that's going to have a certain number of words. You can do that and keep track of it by using this content structure button as you create. And of course, what you can also do is you can add in blocks by clicking the Add Block button. And we will be looking at how you create these blocks in detail in the rest of this course. Okay, so with that, thanks, and I will see you in another video. Welcome back. Now in this video, we're going to continue to look at the editor layout. And we have more control over how our interface looks. For example, if you find that you don't need to have all of these areas available to you when you're writing, what you can do is you can go into this options area and you can make sure that you're only going to have those elements that you're going to use on your document panel. You can also have it so that WordPress does give you pre-published checks or helps you to figure out what may be wrong with your document. And you can enable tips to be shown to you as to how to use the new WordPress editor. Now, part of the flexibility that the Gutenberg editor gives you is the ability to create blocks. In the older interface, if you wanted to have text, you had to create everything inside of one area. With the new Gutenberg editor, what you can do is you can create blocks. So for example, let's say that we wanted to create the same text, but we wanted to create it within a specific block. And instead of creating all of the text in one block, we can create that text in a different block. As you will see in a later video, we have the ability to manipulate these blocks. Now you'll see here at the top, what we can do is we can control our block navigation. You can see we can then highlight the block that we want to work with through this navigation. Another feature you'll notice is at the top we can click content structure. And this will give us some helpful information as to how we are progressing through our content. Perhaps you're trying to create a document that's going to have a certain number of words. You can do that and keep track of it by using this content structure button as you create. And of course, what you can also do is you can add in blocks by clicking the Add Block button. Now, we will be looking at how you create these blocks in detail in the rest of this course. Okay, so with that, thanks, and I will see you in another video. Welcome back. Now in this video, we're going to walk through the process of adding blocks to your interface. And before we do that, we're going to delete the blocks that we already have here. And as you remember, blocks are containers for content inside of the Gutenberg Editor. So to get rid of the blocks that we currently have, we're just going to place our cursor inside and we're going to click the delete button. And that will get rid of the block. Now that we see that the other block or the second block is highlighted, we can then place our cursor then inside of that block. You'll see that the cursor is no longer blinking. We're then going to click the delete button. And then that rids our interface of that block. You'll see that this cursor is still blinking. If we were to click the delete button, you'll notice then that this block will not disappear. So we're just going to click inside of the block. You'll see that cursor is no longer blinking, and then we're going to click the delete button, and you'll see then that we no longer have a block in this area. In order to add a second block, we'll actually need to create content inside of this block. So for example, we now have content inside of this block, so we come back to the side, and then we find the area where we can actually click this button, or any of the places where we see the add block sign. We'll be able to add the kind of block we want there to be. And you'll see that we've added a block over the top of this one. If we wanted to add one under there, we can then go to this button, click add block, add the kind of block, and you'll see that there's going to be another block underneath the one where we have it. And you'll see here that every time we try to add a block, you'll need to have content inside of the block here in order for the interface to add another block. So you won't be able to add a block just by clicking the button if you haven't used the one that you currently have highlighted. And finally, again, to get rid of the block, all we'll need to do is to click inside of the block. We'll need to make sure that the menu appears. We'll then click the delete button, and the block disappears. So what you'll be able to do is you'll be able to add blocks to your interface, and you'll be able to choose what kind of block that you're going to be working with. Now we're going to be looking at several different kinds of blocks where we can add several different kinds of content to your interface. And the advantage of adding content inside of a block is we can then manipulate the content. And we'll see manipulating these blocks in a later video. Okay, so with that, thanks, and I'll see you in another video. Welcome back. Now each content block that you add has different elements that you can customize. So you notice that we have created a paragraph block here, and if we click inside of this block, then the elements that we can customize become available. If we were to create another kind of block, and for example, if we were to create an image block instead of a paragraph block, you're going to see different elements that we can customize. For example, you'll notice here that we have a heading block. That heading block has different customization settings. You'll notice here that we have an audio block. If we click inside of that audio block, this audio block only has the advanced or coding customization. So anytime you add a block to your editor or to your layout page, you're going to want to come to this right side menu anytime you click inside of that block, and then you're going to want to customize it according to the way you want the block to appear on your site. Now, the one area you won't see any customization available to you will be if you place your cursor inside of the title area. You'll notice that there is no block selected, there's no customization. What you can do is you can place your cursor inside of the title box. You can click the edit button, and then you have the ability to change the permalink to what you want it to be. Okay, so with that, thanks, and I will see you in another video. Welcome back. Now once you understand how to manipulate each block, You then have flexibility in terms of determining how your content appears on the page. So for example, if we were to take this heading setting and we were to align that heading to the left, we were to take this block where we have the audio, and we were to make sure that what it does was to loop, and we were to take this image file and we were to reduce the image size, we can then begin to manipulate the blocks onto our page. So for example, we might feel as if we want to have our audio appear above or below a particular heading. And that's the case, what we would do is we can then take these arrows, we can move the block that way. So for example, if I click this up arrow, that block is now going to move above the heading. We can then take this block, we can move that above the heading. And we can achieve the same results by dragging and dropping the boxes where we want them to be. In some cases, you might find that it's difficult to use your mouse to grab the right place. When you don't have a lot of blocks, what you can do is just use the arrows as you want them to be. And then you'll be able to get those blocks into the position where you want them. So by manipulating your block settings, as well as moving them up and down on the page, you can have different elements to appear on your site where you want them. And so one way to achieve this is whenever you have a major change in what you're doing, you can place that content inside of its own block and then experiment as to where you want that particular content to be on your page. Okay, so with that, thanks, and I'll see you in another video. Welcome back. Now there are some other ways for you to manipulate the position of the blocks available to you. In order to demonstrate this, we're going to scroll down to this block, which is a heading block. When we do that, we're going to click inside of the block. And what you're going to notice is that another visual editor appears for that particular block, and this will allow you to manipulate the content in the block. One of the things that you'll see inside of each of these blocks is a More Options area. If we click that button, you'll notice then that what we can do is we can hide the block settings. What we can also do is we can duplicate this block. So for example, if we click duplicate, that'll give us another block like that. Of course, we can then delete that block in the same area. We can go back to our More Options, and what we can do is we can insert another block before this one, or to insert another block after one. So what we can do is we can click inside of this block, and then we have another block that's inserted on top of that one. And of course, we can also go to this block, we can insert a block after this one. One of the other things we can do with this More Options area is we can edit a particular block as HTML. And so if we click this link, you'll notice then that the block appears, but it will appear as the HTML code. We can go back to the WYSIWYG editor by going back to the link inside of the block and edit visually. And then our block will then be available. We can go back to this More Options area, and we can click this link that says Add to Reusable Blocks. And basically, if we have a block that we'd like to use in other posts, we can then designate it as a reusable block. And so we click this link, we can then title the reusable block, and then we can save that block. Now what happens is that this becomes part of your site's reusable posts. So what we can do now is we can go to an entirely new post. And what we can do is we can then add a block. We can then scroll down to the reusable blocks, and you'll see that we have the block available to us that we created. And we can now use this block inside of any post. Okay, so with that, thanks, and I will see you in another video. Welcome back. We're now going to look at ways that you can add in text to your document. So to do that, we're going to get rid of this block. So we're just going to click inside of here. We're then going to click delete. That block is going to go away. What we're going to do is we're going to click this add block button. And you're going to notice that there is our paragraph, which is most used. But then we can go to this area called Common Blocks. And these are going to be the blocks that most people are going to use most of the time in order to create content inside of their WordPress website. We're going to click in the paragraph block, and that's going to give us access to a block where we can create text. Once you have that text block, you can then manipulate that text just as you would have inside of the old editor. For example, we can highlight certain parts of the text. We can then make that text bold. We can make another part of the text italics. We can then hyperlink with this text by clicking this link button and writing in the URL that we want to link to, then clicking the return button. And we can also create strike-through text. Now, if we click the Shift and the return button, we will then be creating more content inside of the block. If we click the return button, we'll be going to another block to create content. So for example, if we click inside of this area, you'll notice that the cursor is blinking inside of a separate block. And of course, another way to do this would be to go to our More Options, then to duplicate the block that we just created, and now we have two in the very same page. We can manipulate that block further by going to our block properties. We can change the background color. We can change the text color. So what the blocks allow us to do is allows us to create text in different ways in different parts of our WordPress site. We can also justify our text. We can change the font size. And we can utilize the drop cap. So the Gutenberg Editor allows you to place text in different parts of your WordPress site and to customize that text in ways that you want to display it. Okay, so with that, thanks, and I will see you in another video. Welcome back. We can also add in images to our WordPress website. We can do that by adding in a block. So if we go inside of this block, what we can do is we can either click in here to add an image if the block is empty, or we can just click the button and we can choose the image block to add in. That's going to give us an interface where we can make choices about where we want to add in our block from. We can upload that image from our hard drive. We can choose from images already in our media library, or we can insert that image from a URL. Now in this case, we're going to choose an image already in our media library. So we're going to click this button. WordPress is then going to look for all of the images that we have already uploaded through posts and or pages, and we can then make that image available in the one that we are working with. Of course, you'll then write in any metadata that's going to be relevant. You'll click select, and you'll see that image then become part of your WordPress site. You then have the ability to manipulate how text is going to appear with that image. You can choose to line the image to the left. You can choose to align it in the center, or you can choose it with a wide width. You can choose full width. And of course, we can change out the image by clicking this image pencil. Now the image block has properties available to it that we can change. For example, we can change the image size to a thumbnail size. You'll see that the image becomes smaller. We can choose to have it become a medium size. And every time you do that, just as it does in the older version of WordPress, you'll see the width and the height of the actual image as you change it. And of course, you can also do this by percentage. Just as was the case with the old version, we can link to a certain URL, and we can write that URL in this area. The image then becomes part of our WordPress site. And of course, we can then begin to move that image where we want it to be, whether we want it to be between a post, we want it to be to the left, we want it to be on the side of a post. If we don't like the appearance, we can go backwards. We can then continue to move the image up. And we can continue to test the layout using our image block along with our text block. Okay, so with that, thanks, and I will see you in another video. Welcome back. Now, Gutenberg will allow us to convert some of our content into a list. So if you go inside of one of your text blocks, you can highlight the content, and then what you can do is you can click Change Block Type, and then you can transform your content into a list. We're just going to click this list. And what happens is we then have bullet points to outline our content. If we want to change so that it does appear for us to have more bullets, we can do that. We can also change the nature of the bullets. So what we can do is we can change the bullets to an ordered list, or we can change it back to an unordered list. We can then change the position of some of our content in the list. So we can indent, or we can outdent. Or it's possible that you may want to create a list from scratch. You can go to your add block area. You can then add in the list block. You can choose it from the most used, or you can choose it from the common blocks. You'll then have a block where you can create lists, and you'll be able to write them in one at a time. And with every successive bullet that you add on, all you'll need to do is to click the return button, and you'll be able to then write in a new bullet. And the same thing will be true with this block. We can highlight it. We can change the nature of that block to something that we want it to be. And of course, we can move the block any place in the document where we want it to be. Okay, so with that, thanks, and I will see you in another video. Welcome back. Now in this video, we are going to add in video content to our WordPress site. In this case, what we're going to do is we're going to click the Add block. We're then going to look for the video block, and in this case, we're going to do a search. And we're going to write in video, and just by typing the V, WordPress will start to search for the available blocks that begin with V, and then we can then click video block. You'll notice then that what we have is we have an interface that we can use. Of course, we can then upload a video to our media library. We can get a video that's already in our media library, or we can get a URL that will play the video when someone clicks on it. Now in this case, we're going to upload a video from our hard drive. Now in many cases, what you'll find is that the video that you're trying to add is likely to exceed the maximum upload size for your server. When that happens, you're less likely to add a video file to your WordPress site, and you're more likely to add an embed code to your site. So what we're going to do is we're going to click inside of the block. We're going to delete the block altogether. We're going to click Add Block. We're then going to look for HTML. We're going to click in Custom HTML. And what we're going to do is we're going to grab the embed code from a YouTube video. We're going to paste the code into the box. What we're going to do now is we're going to preview the block with the new code. So we're going to click Preview. We can then see how the block is going to appear inside of our site. And if we like it, we can then allow the change to be made. But if you really do want to have the file rendering from your server, you can't upload the video. However, you are going to want to make sure that your server allows for a video that size. Okay, so with that, thanks, and I will see you in another video. Welcome back. Now, in the same way that we added a video block to our WordPress site, we can also add in an audio block. And to do that, we're going to click this Add Block button. And then we're going to go to search for a block. And even though we see it here in the most used area, we can search for it by typing in an A and U, and you'll notice then that the audio block then becomes available. I'm going to click that link. And you'll recognize the interface. It looks just like the video interface. And we can upload an audio from our hard drive to our WordPress site. Now in this case, an audio file is typically going to be smaller than a video file, so it's quite possible that you'll be able to upload an audio to your server from your hard drive. What we're going to do is we're going to click this upload button, and we can then add in the audio to this particular block. When we have that audio block, we can write in a caption, and we can further customize our block. For example, we can have the block autoplay. We can also have the block loop, where you can choose whether or not to have your audio preloaded to your visitor's personal computer or their mobile device. We can also control how the audio player is going to interface with the rest of your content. For example, if we want to have the audio player aligned to the left and then to have the text surrounding it, we can do that. We can do the opposite by having it aligned to the right. First, what we're going to do is we're going to move it up, and then we're going to align it to the right, and then we're going to move this block down. You'll see now that our player appears inside of our text aligned to the right. So you can manipulate the position as well as the player and how it will appear inside of your WordPress site. Okay, so with that, thanks, and I will see you in another video. Welcome back. Now, one interesting feature inside of Gutenberg is the capacity to create a cover. So for example, if we were to click the Add Block button and we were to either click the cover from most used, or we're going to write in a C and an O, we'll then find the block. You'll notice then that you will be able then to drag an image or a video, or upload a new one, or select a file from your library. And what we're going to be able to do is we're going to be able to write on top of this image or video. Now you'll notice then that we have our image in place, and what we can do is we can write right on top of that image. We'll just place our cursor where we have our title, and then we can write in our overlay. And of course, we have control over the appearance of the overlay. We can make the background more opaque. We can give the overlay a different color. And you'll see that here. And of course, until you get the look that you want, you can clear out any of the changes. You can continue to add in content until you have the overlay that you want. Now this is going to be helpful if you have images or headers that you want to create with an overlay that you are going to write in on top of the image. Okay, so with that, thanks, and I will see you in another video. In conclusion, we've now gone through various elements for you to add text and content to various blocks and to manipulate those blocks inside of your WordPress site. As you make each change, one of the things you should be doing is you should be previewing those changes so you'll be able to see how it's going to look inside of your entire site. You can do that by clicking this preview button. That's going to give you a glimpse of your site. You'll be able to do any testing that you want to do of your multimedia. And just as you would inside of any version of WordPress, you can then click the Publish button. In order to edit your site, one of the things you can do is you can go to your block navigation. And if you have been faithful to build your site by placing things inside of different blocks, you can then go back to that block and you can edit it according to how you feel it looks on your site. Now obviously we've gone through only a few of the block options that you have. You'll see them here in this most used area. However, there are more common blocks. There are formatting blocks, layout elements, widgets. For example, we can work with short code there. And in some cases, you may even want to work with some of the embeds. For example, we used HTML code in order to embed a YouTube video. What we could have done is use the YouTube embed element, and that would have achieved the same thing that we did using the actual embed code. Okay, so with that, thanks, and I'll see you either in another video or in another course.